Hey everybody, it's Cody Kessler coming to you live from the Rockville office of Homebridge Financial Services with today's episode of KLA Now. Today, joining us, we've got a really good friend of ours, Jill Michaels. She is the managing partner and founder of Michaels Title and Escrow. She is licensed to practice law in Maryland, D.C., and the U.S. District Court of Maryland. She is awesome. Not only is she a title attorney, which if anybody will get into that in the show today, but understanding what the difference is between a title attorney and somebody that does title, extremely important. So we've got her on the show today. We're going to be talking about some great topics, things like how to get through a contract, things that you need to understand in a contract, all the minor details that actually a lot of real estate agents don't even know about. So this would be a great show for buyers and agents. But why we have her here? So she has an extensive resume. Tons of experience, but the main things that I want to point out to you, she served as GCAR and the PGCAR Education Committee. So she teaches real estate agents. She's also served on the committees that writes contracts and the clauses that go into these contracts. So if you want to know how to put these things together, and if you're in the area, you actually probably know who Jill is. She teaches all kinds of classes to realtors all the time about writing contracts, education, you name it. I think you even do the certification as well, right?
Well, I do the certification through providers like GCAR and PGCAR, which, as you mentioned, are the local real estate associations, as well as I teach for the Maryland and Montgomery County Bar Association for real estate lawyers.
So she knows what she's talking about. That's the point. We have an expert on today's show, so really excited about being able to talk about the topic, get into details, and she's going to walk you through the top 5 things that really buyers should be looking for and be aware of in the contracts. So really, just super excited to have her here. So, hope everybody join us in welcoming Jill. Absolutely. And guys, listen, this is a live show. So if you're out there watching, we love interaction. We love sharing this. This is great information. If you've never watched a KLA Now show, this show is designed to give buyers, sellers, agents, everybody that's surrounding the real estate and mortgage industry insider information. Tips that mortgage companies don't want you to know, how to successfully navigate through a transaction, how to make sure that the contract is written the right way so it's protecting you, the buyer. So we're going to cover all these points and more. So let's just go ahead and jump right in. So if anybody has seen a residential contract, they are, I think that they're now about this thick. How many pages are in that contract?
Ready for this?
Yeah.
The average contract, I should give you a number, is
that's what we have staff for.
is 56 pages.
56
in
pages,
Maryland, D.C., and Virginia.
And then you got extra that go into each state?
Absolutely, because you have jurisdictional addendum in various counties.
Yeah.
On top of that, you have 2 different contracts in Maryland you can use.
Okay.
One contract for realtors in D.C. and one NVAR, Virginia Association of Realtors, contract you can use there.
Okay.
So various addendum go in it, plus the buyers have the right to certain disclosures from the seller, and if they don't get them, they have the opportunity to void the contract.
So there's tons of stuff that goes into these things. Now I know that you mentioned there's 2 different, there's a GCAR contract and an MAR contract?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So the Maryland Association of Realtors, MAR, in case you hear that, or...
Thank you for clarifying. I assume that you guys know what these acronyms are.
If not, if you're buying in Maryland, you will, right?
Yeah.
That's what you have these guys for and us for. I always say CYA, which stands for call your attorney.
There you go. There you go. I like that.
Even if somebody else was thinking somebody else, it's the same difference.
I was thinking cover your ass.
It's both. So beforehand, so we're not taking a show. That's why I run a free legal hotline for my lenders and for my real estate agents and my home buyers.
So you have a hotline?
Yes.
So realtors, lenders, they can literally call your hotline at any kind of time and ask you any question. Even if you're not working with these agents, they just pick up the phone.
Absolutely.
I've got a contract question. Do you want to give that number out on here?
I absolutely do.
Okay.
Want to hear how brave I am? It's my cell phone. It's
we never do that.
I am a little crazy. They like me anyway. It's 253-4393.
Wow.
And you can also find that on my website, which is for the title company, michaelstitle.com, and for the law firm, it is jillmichaelslaw.com. You can just think of Jillian Michaels, the trainer, who I look a little bit like, from here up. Oh, God bless you. It's only from here up.
I gotcha. All right, so we'll actually give that information again at the end of the show, so you don't have to worry about writing it down. But all right, so do me this. Tell me exactly. So we've got a lot of people out there that are going to that are buyers that are going to watch us. What do they need to know about contracts? What are the top 5 things? And if you had to say, here is exactly what you need to know about your contract, or here's what you, as the buyer, need to look at. Now, we're going to assume that you have a good real estate agent. We're going to assume that your agent is doing these things to protect you. But guys, the rule of thumb is this. You might have a great agent, you might have a great lender, but you should not be trusting them implicitly. This is a contract. You are the one that has the liability if anything goes wrong. So you need to know this information. This is why I'm so excited about today's topic, and this is why I'm so excited to have Jill here. She is literally one of the experts in the area. She's going to tell you all the information to make sure that nothing goes wrong and that you're protected. So tell these people what, absolutely. Tell these people, what are the things that they need to know?
Okay, very important. Number 1 is the home inspection contingency.
Okay.
So remember those 56 pages we were talking about, give or take. In the 10 pages, well, it's 8 to 10 pages on average, of either the one contract or the other in Maryland, or the DC contract that exists, or the Virginia contract that exists. It does not have a home inspection contingency.
In the contract, it's not written in there, so.
Absolutely, 100% correct. So in order for you to get that right, which is very, very important, even when you're buying bank, particularly, owned properties, et cetera, is to add an addendum, usually called the addendum of clauses. In each county, it's different. Very, very different. So it's very important that you understand what that difference is in the time frame that you, your attorney, your lender recommends, and your realtor recommends. So, for example, time is of the essence in all the contracts in all 3 states. Sometimes you hear an attorney call it jurisdictions, but it's fancy schmancy language to make us look bigger and important for no reason. It just means states, or the Commonwealth of Virginia, whatever it is. So, but basically, you need to select a certain number of days, and you negotiate it. On average, I'd say maybe 7 to 10 days is negotiating. Exactly. Except,
does that feel like it's a little bit long? We see a lot of stuff in our contracts that are usually within the first 5 days. So to 7 to 10, what's your take on that?
So on average, I see 7 days. 5 is if you have multiple contracts, which means you're bidding on a house, making an offer with the 56 pages, that you want the seller to initial, also called ratify, just means sign it in all the appropriate places. Basically,
you're shortening it up to be more competitive.
Yes. There are many reasons why a seller might take a buyer's offer that's less money, believe it or not. And that's why you want to have a good real estate agent, a good lender, and a good attorney.
So let's do this. So you had mentioned home inspection contingency. There might be a lot of people out there that have absolutely no idea what that means.
For sure.
So if you could go ahead and tell them, what is a contingency in a contract?
Okay. So it has to be added, has to be filled out correctly, and has to be based on the jurisdiction, also known, the county, of where you're at. If you don't add it, or don't successfully add it, or it's not initialed off, which is commonly referred to as ratification, it doesn't exist. So there are 2 popular ones. The first one, which I generally recommend, unless you're up against 20 people and doing a 5-day or 3-day home inspection, is the normal home inspection, where you check out the roof, the plumbing, the floors, mostly not the structure, but everything else. You have a
all
license.
the systems, and make sure that the house is not falling down.
Yeah, exactly. And you decide whether you're going to nickel and dime them or not. And that's a unique fingerprint that you really need to think about in making your offer. Because again, settlement date, inspections, length of inspections, quality of lender, all kinds of things go into whether you win a contract. And then there's a 3-day back and forth where you negotiate. One of the critical things that you have to fill out is, I want a licensed contractor, not the seller who's handy to do the actual home inspection, and I want the receipts. Very, very, very common problem at the settlement table. Now there's another more aggressive inspection you can do, which is called a general inspection, no right to negotiate.
Okay.
So basically, you go in, you do the same thing, you have a licensed inspector. In Maryland, they call it MHIC, licensed inspector. And something different in DC, but whatever. Licensed inspector, usually your real estate agent will recommend them.
Okay.
And somebody they have a relationship with so they can trust. And they go in, check out the house from soup to nuts, with some restraints. They're not breaking through the drywall.
Sure.
And then you can decide, I'm going to walk within the 5 days, 7 days, or whatever it is, or not.
Got it.
And then another thing to be careful about, little nuance, is Christmas time, Hanukkah time, Hanukkah time, whatever you want to call it, July 4th, if there's an HVAC, which is just an air conditioning issue, Thanksgiving. So you want to, during those time frames, think about how much time it's going to actually take you.
Extra time.
Exactly.
Yeah, a lot of people probably miss that.
Yeah.
So just to kind of, and again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, so I'm going to speak just from my own experience. So a contingency is a clause that you put in a contract that essentially is an exit strategy for you.
Absolutely.
That if you have a period of time, and in this case, since we're talking about home inspections, you ratify the contract, you say, I have 7 days to perform this home inspection, having a home inspection walkthrough. There's all kinds of things that the home inspector comes up with. If the seller, or if there's a major problem, or if the seller doesn't agree to these things, the contingency allows you to get out of the contract without penalty, right?
Yes, under certain circumstances.
And it depends on
number one, how the contract is written,
and what those clauses are.
Quality of the real estate agent, lender looking at it, and oftentimes, particularly with short sales, we basically are talking about making sure that you follow the exact instructions in whatever it is you wrote as the home inspection. Real estate agents should not be drafting their own. Attorneys can, but they need to be using the National Association of Realtors pre-drafted contracts.
Got it.
And so like you're saying, and I think your point is, and it's extremely important, you have a 7-day, 5-day, whatever day contingency for home inspections to see from soup to nuts how the house is working, dishwasher, whatever. That you don't wait till day 8 and say, oh, here's what we want. Also that you understand this is how you would resolve a dispute in the one contract, which is mediation, not binding. Basically, in short, it is, we agree to disagree.
Yeah, and then off you go. And
then off you go. 2 to 4 months later, there could be a lawsuit. No offense to me, but we win, but not so much the buyers. So again, I always say CYA, call your attorney, make sure, and it's not that you get billed for these kinds of things. It's a relationship that you have and the real estate agent has with the real estate attorney so that they know what to do and how to handle it.
Okay.
Now, that being said, as you probably know, when times 20, that most home inspection problems arise, drum roll again, during the day before settlement or the morning of. Exactly. And the final walkthrough, as you mentioned,
things haven't been done correctly or whatever it may be. So no, I understand. And there's tons of things, and what Jill's talking about right now is first that we're talking about is how you write contracts, how you protect yourself. So if you're just joining us, that's the overall topic that we're talking about today. But right now, the specifics are home inspection or contingencies. So a contingency, and I'm sure that we'll probably talk about more of these things as we go on, but a contingency is something that you have to have written in your contract. They have to be correctly written because they're actually what protects you. There's a lot of people, especially first-time home buyers. They get into a contract, they are petrified. absolutely petrified of what they're doing because they signed this 56-page contract. They have no idea. They don't know what this legal language means. Everybody else around them seems to know what's going on, but they're clueless. So these contingencies actually get you out of these contracts. They protect you. They're your exit strategies. In a lot of cases, as long as you're meeting those contingencies in the contract, you have an out and you're protected, meaning that you can get your money back. There's no legal or financial ramifications. So as we go through this, we're going to make sure that, again, know these things. This is for you to understand that this is how you protect yourself to make sure that nothing bad happens. So we covered home inspection contingencies. That's a big one. Obviously, nobody wants to buy a house that, you know, there's a crack in the foundation or there's mold, which is a lot of times that comes up. So tell us some of the other, you know, top 5 things that you have. We've covered number 1. So what's number 2 through 5?
Okay, so the other one I would say is lender. They're
terrible.
Okay, except here. No, so you do not, in my honest opinion, after doing this for 15 plus years, want to go with somebody just on the internet over a penny or two. You don't want to. I don't want to write a check out of somebody else's pocket. However, nobody wants to be penny wise and dollar foolish. You're spending a heck of a lot of money, and you want to make sure that you're going to be able to perform under the time is of the essence provision that is in all the contracts. You have, what do you see, 21, 27 days for a conventional financing contingency?
Well, generally, I mean, you know, and again, this show is not to self-promote, but here our general is 15 days.
Yeah.
You know, we do 15 days without blinking an eye, so
That's fast.
That's our standard. You know, but to your point, and not to get off, this is not a show about lending, you know, Jill's point about internet lenders, it's not to say that internet lenders are bad and that you shouldn't look there, but you should understand what you're getting. You're going to sacrifice things, just like when you go to a title person versus a title attorney. Okay, they might be doing the same job, but the level of service, the level of experience, they're not going to be the same. So you need to understand what you're getting, and if you're willing to sacrifice the service so that you can feel as though that you're getting a better interest rate or slightly better fees, as you said, pennies. You know, that's just something that you need to be aware of as from a consumer standpoint, because it really is your choice. But you know, from that standpoint, vetting out a lender, yes, I agree. You know, so carry on.
Yeah, I mean, the truth of the matter is, if I had to put a percentage on it, and I'm just taking this off the top of my head,
Sure.
85%, this is how huge this is, 85% of the problems at or around settlement are based on the performance of a lender who has overpromised and under-delivered. So if they say they're going to be ready in a 27-day or whatever it is, financing contingency, FHA, which is a government program, VA, which is for veterans, or families of veterans, see Cody, I'll tell you more, or conventional financing would put a certain amount down. There's various programs. Over my head, not today's topic, you want to make sure that they're actually ready. So you want to be able to reach out and touch, sorry, your actual lender, know that they can, the proof is in the pudding, take care of business so that you don't, on the day of settlement, have a problem.
Well, you're talking about meeting contract dates, because you've got a very definitive, when you write a contract, you have a date of ratification, which that's when that clock starts ticking. And then you've got all your contingencies, your home inspection, your appraisal, your financing contingency, those are your outs, and then you may have others that are written in. But generally, once you cross that financing contingency, then you're off to settle. If you don't close, even if the lender was wrong, the lender is not responsible, and that's a point that a lot of people don't know. Guys, the lender, the title agents, the real estate agents, we really don't have any exposure in these transactions unless we have gross negligence, okay? So, but that's not very common. And from a lending situation, it happens all the time. Lenders write pre-approval letters. They say, hey, we'll do these 21 or 15-day financing contingencies.
Like candy.
And, you know, we'll close on this day. And I think it was this stat is a little bit old now, I don't have it updated, but this was about 4 or 5 years ago. Bank of America came out publicly. I have no idea. Whoever was doing PR for Bank of America at this time, hopefully is no longer there. But the CEO came out and said that they only closed about 30% of their purchase transactions on time.
Wow.
That's horrible.
That is
so,
very, very dangerous to the buyer,
exactly.
and may cost you a lot of moolah, meaning money.
Because, guys, it's a contract. It is a legal contract. And what can happen if you don't live up to the letter of that contract?
You have to hire me in the law firm. Or I can, normally, I can do what I call BMW. People get very upset, they get emotional.
Yeah.
The seller's, house, and sometimes the real estate agents, could get emotional if they're not professional, whatever. Or somebody's upsetting them or rallying them, the family. But I say no, BMW, I'm not talking about the car.
Sure.
Blaming, moaning, and whining
I like this.
thank you very much, feel free
I
to
like
use
this.
it. I won't copyright it. Does not.
Who are you listening?
does not solve the problem, right? So what are we trying to do? You have a buyer who wants to buy, hopefully, right? You have a seller who wants to sell. Let's get to a solution.
Let's get it worked out.
No doesn't solve the problem.
Nobody wants to end up in court. Court is expensive, it's horrible, but it is a reality, guys, and so that's why this is so important, because you can end up in court. Do you have any idea how often that happens?
I would say
Frequent or infrequent?
frequently there, I'd say, and again, I'm going to take a stab at my
Nobody's gonna
15
hold
plus
you.
years. I started when I was 12. Experience, but I'd say 70% of the time there's an issue. I don't call it a problem.
Sure.
Unless there's an F word involved.
Sure.
The kind that lands an orange jumpsuit and matching silver bracelets.
Yeah.
Not my style.
Fraud. That's what she's referring to.
However, that we have to address at settlement.
Okay.
One of those is, and again, this means you need to have a settlement company, not just that your real estate agent recommends, but that you've done a little bit of homework. Why do you recommend that settlement company?
No, I understand.
Are they gonna then sit back when the last minute problems happen, and again, that's when it happens, your $25,000 earnest money deposit at risk, so not chump change. Personally, if I lost $10 under my car, I would still be worried, right? So let's talk money, right? So that will not just sit there and go blah, 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 and let the real estate agents deal with it, but will in fact actually work on the contract between the buyers and sellers, explain their rights, the likely outcome, try to mediate a dispute, and be a neutral. One of the biggest problems I have seen with settlement companies, and I hear from agents, is that they are not a neutral. That they're so used to getting business from one side or the other, a particular big agent, or they're trying to get business from this agent, that they're a little one-sided. Not allowed in Maryland, DC, or Virginia. That attorney at the title company has to be a neutral. So feel free to call me. I have sometimes lenders or real estate agents call me and they say, Jill. I say, okay, why are you whispering? So there are many reasons, whatever. So and they say, I'm at another settlement company, and blah 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 blah. And I help.
Is this legal?
Right? Is this legal? Is this normal? How should I react? And I can give. This is how you should react. They're bluffing. They're not bluffing. Let me talk to that attorney because they're weighing on one side or the other, and that's not kosher.
Guys, it's so important to choose that. And I'll tell you this. I'm speaking from my own experience. In the state of Maryland, and I'm not going to speak for any other state, but in the state of Maryland, it's the buyer's choice. The buyer legally has the right to choose the title company, okay, or where they're going to settle. So, but oftentimes the real estate agent says, "Oh, well, here's my settlement company that we work with." You just need to know that you have every right to say, no, I want Jill. I want to work with Michael's title. So they can't argue against that. You have the right to look at the title or settlement company and choose somebody that's going to have your best interests at heart. choose somebody that is an attorney, that knows the law, that was a litigator, and clearly likes to talk and argue. So
it's fun. I love my job.
But this is what you want. You want somebody that's going to sit at the table, and if they see a problem, knows how to negotiate, knows the law, knows how to cover those things. Because guys, once you sign those papers, that's it. There's no going back. The only way to go back is to spend a ton of money and to go hire an attorney and get it worked out afterwards. So, that's why it's so important to look for somebody like Jill. Highly recommend that you guys talk to her. Highly recommend that you reach out to her. Whether it's on her hotline, cell phone, you've got that, take advantage of it, ask the questions. But if you are a buyer and you are even thinking about getting into the real estate market, you've got to talk to Jill so that you can get the right information going forward. Highly recommend it. All right, so coming up, let's just kind of go through you got a couple more topics to kind of go through. So let's touch on the next ones.
Okay, well, one is I need now a double door to fit my head out. Thank you very much for the compliment, so I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Secondly, there's a little known law that I want to mention that goes into effect on October 1st of this year if you're buying in Montgomery County, Maryland. And that is that a little law that will actually cost the sellers some degree of money, and the buyers have the right, the absolute right, to receive it. So it saves the buyers a heck of a lot of money, and that is
not good
radon.
for sellers, though. So.
Not good for the sellers, but good for you guys because you save about, let's say, give or take $150. It's money. So you're only shelling out for a home inspector or whatever.
Exactly, every dime counts.
And there's no I changed my mind contingency in the contract. I broke up with my boyfriend contingency in the contract.
That's my
favorite. My favorite one is, but I didn't read that part.
Yes.
Not in the contract, not a contingency.
Not something that you're going to be able to get out on, guys. It's buyer beware. You get the contracts, you get the disclosures. Once you sign it, that's it. So
The seller has to now, October 1st, within the past year thereafter, get a radon test and provide a copy of this radon test to the buyer's agent / buyer.
Yeah.
Okay? So, again,
is
very
radon
important.
Problem? I mean, I know it used to be huge back in the 80s. Radon was all over the place and, all kinds of extra stuff. But is it still prevalent in today's society marketplace?
Huge. Shockingly, although we're not California, we had 2 earthquakes, no pun intended. So we, and already before that, on the Environmental Protection Agency website, we were in the red zone, meaning we have a lot of radon, natural gas.
Yeah.
What people don't know is it's the second leading cause of lung cancer in the country.
Wow.
Right. So particularly in walkout basements, you have less of an issue, but still a possible issue. And in non-walkout basements, very, very big concern.
Coming through the basement, leaking through the foundation, things like that. Wow. Yeah.
Now, one thing, again, free legal advice here, I absolutely 100% recommend that you do not accept, as a buyer, a home kit test from that seller. That they have to provide, and this is not the law, this is just your free legal advice, right? Licensed radon professional company to show you that the level of radon is within the law.
I got you. Okay, great information, huge. I didn't know that. I've been doing this for 12 years, so I had no idea. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of walk through. So we've covered contingencies, we've covered contract dates, we've covered vetting the lender, we've covered the settlement, and why you need to choose a title attorney. We've covered radon, which was great. So I would say, are these the top 5 things?
They're definitely the top 5 things.
There's probably tons more.
There are tons more, but wrapping it up so we can answer your questions and so forth, because there are a lot of details about this. The other important thing I would say that's built into the 5 is don't just select a real estate agent out of the phone book, out of a postcard, out of what my neighbor uses.
What's your best, suggestion for somebody that doesn't, there's not everybody that runs around and says, I know a real estate agent, I know a good one. And even if you do get referred a good real estate agent, most people don't know what a good real estate agent is. So what's your tip?
So for one, check with the lender, who you should be checking with as soon as possible, because what if the first house you see, bam, you want to write on?
Yeah.
So your lender has relationships, or, you know, again, call me.
Yeah.
I know who knows what areas and so forth and so on, and honest and ethical, and I teach
Absolutely.
a whole code of ethics class.
Yeah.
You won't believe the stories. Topic for another Facebook seminar. But it's extremely, extremely important that you get advice from somebody that you trust about who this person is. Just because they have their sign in the yard and they do everybody's house in this neighborhood.
Yeah.
I call that social proof. That doesn't actually mean that they're good. And really killer to this is, in DC, perfectly legal, but don't do it. Dual agency in DC. In Maryland it's fine because it's a very different law. But in DC, agent can represent both the buyer and the seller at the same time.
That would be crazy. I don't know why anybody would, you know, logistically, logically, rationally, there's so many things that you do not want one agent representing the buyer and the seller. So, you know, if anybody's even talking about that, you should run far and fast, in my opinion.
That is well said, because how can you know
Who they
how much
represent.
the seller is willing to accept and how much the buyer is willing to pay?
There's no way that an
And
agent
put a
can
Chinese
negotiate.
wall.
Yeah, they can't negotiate on both people's behalf, 100%. So I've got one question for you before we get you out of here. So this happens and it comes up a ton. So we're engaged with a client, and we've gone through the pre-approval process, and you know, we know that they've talked to another bank, which is fine. You know, always shop lenders, talk to a couple at least. So they write a contract, and they submit a contract with a specific lender letter, okay? Contract gets ratified and accepted based upon the terms of that contract and the pre-approval letter that was provided by that specific bank, okay? And then after it gets accepted and ratified, the buyer decides to switch lenders and they come to us.
Love it, right? So in theory, great question.
Is there any
Great
exposure?
question.
Is there any exposure for the buyer?
Oh yeah, right? So number one, the seller has looked at you at Homebridge, at KLA, and they've said, okay, I can't select the buyer, but I know that lender and I know that loan officer.
Yeah.
This is a contract we should take, even though that contract could be a little bit more, even 5,000, 10,000 more, because he's going to perform. So then you're getting through.
It becomes terms of the contract.
Absolutely.
Because you're saying, hey, I'm offering this with these terms, but I'm using this financing, so that financing in that bank becomes part of the contract.
And how it's filled out.
Excellent.
So if you are putting down 5%, I commit to, or 3.5%, I commit to, you know, CYA, which, you know, we can explain another time.
Yeah.
You're locked into that. Now, in all the contracts by, you know, Maryland Association of Realtors, GCAR, WDCAR in DC, and NVAR in Virginia, they allow alternative financing. However, this is the big thing for buyers to take away if they take away nothing else.
Pay attention.
Okay, so you're still required to perform. Even if it's your lender's fault, doesn't matter. You pick the lender, you are the buyer, therefore you would be in breach. So switching midway is okay legally, not a breach of contract, only if, one, it's material, so there are certain disclosures you have to say, and two, regarding like denials and so forth, and two, now you have a lender who's starting from scratch 5 days before settlement, and you are still locked in to the financing regardless of whether that second lender that you have picked at the last minute can't perform. It's a major, major issue. My advice, do your shopping before, get your pre-approval, because pre-approvals can be written like candy. Good lenders don't do it. They do their homework first because their reputation is on the line.
Absolutely.
And they make sure they don't overpromise and underdeliver.
Yeah,
Huge. And again, you want to be able to reach out, won't touch again, but hypothetically, thank you, and touch your lender. In other words, not have somebody you can't get on the phone, you don't know, your real estate agent or your title attorney doesn't know them, because they get referrals, and it's all about reputation. So you have to be very, very, very careful. I strongly recommend, unless there's a real problem, and CYA, before you do this, don't just ask your real estate agent, call your attorney to see whether it's appropriate or not.
Yeah, well, great advice. You know, we've been in that situation a few times, and you know, it's something that a lot of buyers think that it's very, you know, it's accepted. One, they don't think that it's a big deal, and they think that they can just kind of, all right, well, the financing is, I can just pick whatever bank. You can, but you shouldn't be switching, because there is a lot of exposure in that. So, you know, as Jill said, do the due diligence before. You should not be running around looking at properties until you've talked to a bank. You know, you're going to actually put yourself in a bad spot. We'll do another show on that another time. So thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure, and thank you guys.
I really enjoyed the conversation. It was great. You know, so if anybody has any questions about today's topic, about contracts, or anything that we didn't cover today, Jill Michaels, reach out to her one more time. Give us the best way to get a hold of you.
Oh, thanks. My cell phone, this is how dangerous I am, is 202, and this is my legal hotline, 202-253-4393. Our office number is 240-425-0008. I have 6 different attorneys, the best team I've ever had. You can also go to jillmichaelslaw.com, separate entity, or michaelstitle.com. We do commercial as well as residential. So happy to discuss, happy to recommend, happy to talk about issues, whether they be quickly and over the phone because you're in California or New York, or you want to come in and meet and talk and review, happy to do so.
All right, well, you know, thank you to everybody who joined us today. Greatly appreciate it. I hope you guys love the topic. If you do, like us, share us. You know, that's how everybody can learn about these things, because as I said, there's not many people that are out there talking about this in the real estate industry. You know, so just want to remind you, KLA Now is a weekly live show that talks about real estate, talk about all kinds of great topics, that is designed to protect buyers and sellers and give you guys great information on how to successfully navigate through the real estate industry. So, you know, follow us on Twitter at Kessler Lending and on Instagram at Kessler Lending. And thank you so much. I'm Cody Kessler. This is Jill Michaels. We'll see you next time on KLA Now.
Thank you.